Christine, how much does it hurt the WNBA when Caitlin Clark is out?
It is devastating to the WNBA when Caitlin Clark is out.
Now, I know a lot of us were expecting some sort of dip since Caitlin Clark has been out with injury, but I don't think all of us were expecting the entire viewership of the entire WNBA to be down.
What happens when an entire professional league loses more than half its audience overnight? Ticket brokers slash prices as fast as fans refresh their screens. TV executives scramble to recut ad inventory, and rival brands whisper about starting a breakaway competition. All it took was one awkward fall, one ice pack on a superstar's groin, and the Women's National Basketball Association suddenly looked less like a billion-dollar enterprise and more like a house of cards held together by one rookie-turned-phenomenon, Caitlin Clark. Keep watching, because the way this story twists from meteoric rise to existential crossroads might change how you look at every growth sport headline you've seen this year.
The WNBA's viewership dropped more than 50%. Not just the Fever, but the entire league.
Quad injury jumped to her groin, likely because of compensation. But the thing that you have to be careful of is if, say, you try to rush her back from this injury as well, then you're getting into this territory where a very serious injury can happen. That is what the Indiana Fever, that is what Caitlin need to avoid the best that they possibly can. So if it means that Caitlin is out for 3 weeks, if it means that she is out all the way through All-Star, then so be it.
But to understand how the WNBA reached this cliff edge, you have to start with the league's brightest light and the blinding Clark effect that came before the blackout. When the Indiana Fever drafted Clark first overall in 2024, the franchise was worth under $100 million. 19 months later, Forbes stamped a jaw-dropping $370 million valuation on the club, a 311% explosion that beat every other team in women's basketball except the New York Liberty. The surge wasn't confined to balance sheets. Clark's WNBA debut shattered a 23-year ratings record, and her off-court portfolio now eclipses $40 million in endorsements, with Nike alone fronting roughly $28 million for a signature logo due this holiday season. If you still doubt her pull, look at the All-Star ballot. 1.293 million fan votes, more than any player, male or female, has ever received in a North American hoops league. But every golden goose is, at heart, a mortal athlete with tendons that can fray and muscles that can scream.
News is alarming for the league, and it's alarming for the league because this is such a crucial year for the WNBA. At the end of this season, the WNBA will go into CBA negotiations. If negotiations go well, then every single player in the WNBA has a much better chance of making so much more in their next contract.
And that's exactly what happened next. First came the left quad strain on May 27, 2024. Clark sat 3 weeks, the longest absence of her life.
And that's one thing when you start thinking about how many people stopped watching when Caitlin Clark got injured. A lot of people stopped watching because they are boycotting the WNBA. They don't want to give viewership to any other teams or any other players, whether they like other players on the team or not, because of how the media and the league itself has handled Caitlin Clark and how they have treated her fans.
And I will make that case and have that there is no one single athlete more important to his or her sport or tour or whatever the circuit is that they play on than Caitlin Clark is to the WNBA.
She'd never missed a single game at Iowa. 2 months into season 2, a sharp pull in her left groin forced her to miss 7 of 16 contests and counting. Reporters warned that rushing back could invite the nightmare no one dares voice on air. A season-ending tear. The result on the floor? A dip from 22.0 rookie points per game to 18.2 this year, with an icy 1 for 23 stretch from deep that launched sophomore wall headlines overnight. Pain and slumps sting, but the real bleeding started in places Clark couldn't tape up. Nielsen charts and Ticketmaster dashboards. During Clark's first injury window, national WNBA viewership crashed 55%. Fever telecasts alone fell 53%. tumbling from 1.81 million to 847K. The ticket market flatlined just as brutally. Get-ins for the Chicago rematch plunged 71%, from $210 to $60, while Washington seats that once needed a venue upgrade now moved for $25 on resale sites. Sponsors noticed. Executives who toasted the WNBA's new $2.2 billion 11-year media deal in Champaign now inserted Clark contingent clauses into contracts.
The WNBA ratings have dropped over 55%
Yikes.
across the board.
Hey, guess what, guys?
The league is Caitlin Clark.
The league is Caitlin Clark. She is the WNBA, guy.
A fancy way of saying, no Caitlin, less cash. And yet the physical pounding that sidelined her kept coming, revealing a second, darker crisis brewing inside the lines. 30 flagrant fouls were whistled league-wide in 2024. 5 landed on one player, Clark. 4 were delivered by the Chicago Sky, turning a budding rivalry into open-season theater. Veteran columnist Christine Brennan, whose book On Her Game drops this fall, blasted the WNBA for letting jealous veterans audition for WWE. League officials answered with the same stock phrase, just basketball plays, even as highlight reels showed Clark sent sprawling again and again. Behind the scenes, ownership groups lobbied for charter flight subsidies, partly to whisk their golden tickets safely past airport mobs. The cost? $50 million over 2 seasons. Pocket change compared to losing 50% of your TV audience. And that's the cue for the money people to seize the mic. Clark's rookie surge helped convince Disney, Amazon, and NBC to write the largest women's sports TV contract ever.
News is alarming for the league, and it's alarming for the league because this is such a crucial year for the WNBA. At the end of this season, the WNBA will go into CBA negotiations. If negotiations go well, then every single player in the WNBA has a much better chance of making so much more in their next contract.
But Wall Street math says the payout only works if she's on camera, not in a rehab pool. Now comes the tantalizing rumor, a Nike-backed Clark League. Brennan floated it, sneaker insiders keep whispering it, and the mere mention rattles WNBA boardrooms. What if the athlete worth more than 25% of league revenue simply leaves? Endorsement hawks tally Clark's 2025 earnings north of $40 million, dwarfing the WNBA max salary of $252,000. That disparity fuels locker room tension and forms the lightning rod of the next big fight. Because while viewers tune out and sponsors hedge bets, the Players' Union is loading its bargaining cannon. Collective bargaining talks open October 1st. Players want a 50-50 revenue split and better health protections. Owners counter with a sliding scale that excludes star-centric dollars. Translation? They want Clark's cash without Clark's leverage. And that's not flying with veterans who ride the charter plane she paid for. If the two sides can't find middle ground, a lockout looms, just as Olympic eyeballs pivot back to domestic hoops. History offers a brutal preview of what failure looks like. Golf without Tiger bled 30% of its ratings. The NBA minus Michael Jordan dipped single digits. But no modern league has cratered 55% the moment one athlete sat down. Boxing deflated after Tyson. UFC cooled post-Rousey. And each sport needed years, sometimes decades, to rebound. The WNBA's cliff is steeper, its safety net thinner, and the final domino is already wobbling, which leaves 2 futures staring the league in the face. Path A: protect and profit. The league enforces transparent flagrant foul rules, institutes a minutes monitor for high-usage stars, and builds marketing around rivalries plus respect. Clark returns to sell-out crowds, young fans keep flooding arenas in number 22 jerseys, and sponsors re-sign at bigger numbers. Path B: repeat and regress. Officials shrug at hard hits, rush her back for ratings, and gamble that the ratings rebound faster than a stress fracture. The next bad fall ships half the audience to Netflix, not back to ABC. And the Nike rumor transforms from Twitter chatter into lawyers drafting bylaws. The WNBA still has time, but the clock ticks louder. Every game Clark spends in street clothes. Ask any old-school hooper and they'll tell you, you always protect the money. And in 2025, money wears number 22. So the next time you scroll past a headline that reads Caitlin Clark day to day, remember, that update isn't just an injury report. It's a pulse check on an entire league. The Golden Goose is hobbling to the sideline. Either the WNBA wraps her in velvet and builds a fortress around the future, or they let her limp away and watch the empire she built fade back into the shadows. Which choice they make will echo far beyond one season, one contract, or even one player. Because sometimes, the fate of a whole sport really does hinge on a single, very human jump shot.